Hello, hello. How are you guys? All right. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to continue talking about data. Data. Um, I want to say it's one of my favorite topics to talk about. I think it's one of the most not thought about topics. Uh, or I should say, not thought about in the way it should be thought about because it's that important. I was in an IEP meeting today, and it just goes to show you how important data is. Data. Everything IEP has to do with data. So when I was in the IEP meeting today, it went back to what I talk about all the time. Data. You have to be able to support what you have to say. So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Raven Woods, and I'm the CEO and founder of Autism Mama Rocks IEP, and I help parents gain the knowledge and the confidence to become the CEO of their IEP meeting. So, if you are new and joining me today, post a 1 below. So, you've never seen me live, maybe it's your second or third time, post a 1 below. If you are an oldie but goodie, you guys know what to do. Post a 2 below. Okay? So I am so excited to be here with you guys today. So I hope you guys are having a good Thursday, and make sure to post all your questions below. I promise to answer them. We're going to hang out and let people hop on, and we're going to have a good time tonight talking about data. Okay, so feel free to share away. People ask me all the time in posts. So yes, you can share this. You can do a watch party over in the group, and make sure you click notifications so you know when I go live. Even if you can't catch me, at least you'll know when I go live. So share, click notifications, say hello, post a 1 below if you're new, post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. If you want to know what new means, it's like your first through third time that you've seen me live. Hi, Narwin. How are you? So post your questions below if you have any. As I get to talking, I will answer questions, but typically I answer everything at the end. So keep them flowing so when I am done, I can just start answering questions and going about it, okay? So let's let people hop on just for a little bit. I'm going to tell you about this IEP meeting that I was in today, and it was interesting how it kind of flowed. It was, all IEP meetings are different, so this was a different IEP meeting. So I want to tell you about it. I'm good, but struggling with my daughter's sleep. Oh gosh, that's horrible. Are you getting any sleep? Probably not. Hey Tara, how are you? Hey Nicole, how are you? Okay. So the other day, if you didn't catch my video on data, it was awesome. Okay. Yep. I was in my bed. You always know, I'm going to tell you, you always know when I'm in my room because the back part of my wall is red. Okay. Just so you know. But I was hanging out in my room. I went live and I lost it. I was on a roll talking about data. Okay. Because it's called objective data, really, okay? When you have something to support what it is you're trying to get, receive, do, say, etc., okay? You have to have data. And it's not hard to get. The problem, okay, it's not hard to get. Okay, let me take that back. It's hard to get because the school doesn't know how to do it. That's really what's going on, okay? So you have school systems who really don't know how to write smart IEPs and a standard IEP, all right? Then you have school systems who actually don't know how to read data. They don't know how to read data, and what I mean is from an assessment, all right? So they don't even know how to relay the assessment to you in an accurate way. And even, have you ever gone to an IEP and said, hey, can you tell me what standard deviation is? Or can you tell me what the mean of this assessment is? They don't know how to do it. They have no idea. I think I'm too close to my camera. All right. They don't know how to explain data. They just don't. And then when you question them, they'll stonewall you because they don't know what else to do. All right. So here's the deal. We're going to talk about your present levels, and we're going to also talk about, I have my notes actually on my computer screen today instead of printed out. So here's the deal. We're going to talk about classroom and student data. All right, we're going to go into a little bit of detail in regards to it. All right, so again, if you're hopping on, post a 1 below if you're new, a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. Say hi and feel free to share. Click notifications so you know when I go live. Join the group if you want to. It's Autism Mama Rocks IEP group. Just put that in the search section and share away. Okay, you can do a watch party in the group if you want to. So you don't have to ask me, guys. You can just do it. All right, so if you look at classroom data, I don't like classroom data, all right? Now, I do like schoolwork. Sometimes it's called written work. You can put quizzes, you can put assessments, you can put tests, but I don't like classroom data, all right? Like anything observational, I don't like. Now, if you're getting an FBA, that type of assessment where that's what they do, they go in and they evaluate your child's behavior and they observe it, but they're still taking data that you can actually hold in your hand. And what I mean by that is when you have a BCBA go in and I'm just giving you an example of why you need that holding, that handheld data, so to speak. Is so your child has an FBA, right? And so when they have an FBA, the BCBA goes, hopefully you guys have a BCBA, not a psychologist, and they watch your child, okay? They observe them, they take notes, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that's not the observational data that I don't like, okay? Because they take that data, go put it on paper, and create an assessment that is completely written out, explained to you in detail, and then from that data that they observed, they then can create what's called a BIP, which is the Behavior Intervention Plan. All right, so BCBAs and even BCABAs are amazing at getting data together. They're like the data kings and queens, okay? And so that's the type of data you have to start thinking about. All right. So in examining, and when I wrote out my notes, which is on my computer today, examining classroom data and student data, you want to make sure that that data is something that you can hold. Okay. Informal classroom assessments are fine because you can hold it. Okay, statewide assessments are fine because you can hold it, okay? Or you can look it up, the state ones. All right, they won't actually give it to you. Work samples are fine because you can see it. So if you're evaluating and you're wanting to see if your child has a goal in like handwriting or they have a goal in writing sentences, full-blown sentences, well, you can observe that with classroom work, all right? But you never want to have those goals, the goals being measured by this type of data solely. So you always want report data collection as measured by report data collection. And then it can also say, and, okay, you never want the word or put into your IEP. So you can say, and classroom assessments, and performance tasks, and it can be work samples. You know what I mean? So you want multiple different ways in which data is collected so that you have a bunch of things to go off of. Okay? So that's really, really important to understand. Questions that you can ask yourself. You guys know that I am the queen of questions. You always want to ask questions so that you can get your brain thinking. So when you ask questions, you ask more questions and you ask more questions. And then you get a lot of information because you're doing nothing but asking questions. And a lot of times in the IEP, I answer a question with a question. So I'm getting more questions answered. All right. So what does the data tell you about your child's performance? That's one thing you have to look at. What does the data tell you? Are you able to sit there and analyze where the baseline your child started, and then be able to see whatever data you're looking at and be able to see that your child made progress, to be able to see that your child did something that is productive, all right? Or did they regress? You need to find that out, okay? That's one thing you need to make sure you know, all right? Another thing is, where are the gaps in your child's knowledge and skill? Where in the data does it show that? Are you able to see that in the data? You should always be able to see everything in the data. You should be able to see, okay, my child is doing really well here. My child is really struggling in this area. And you need to know exactly what's going on with that. Does that make sense? So make sure that you stay on top of that and that you, all right, hold on. Okay, so make sure that you stay on top of data, all right? Another thing I want you to ask yourselves is, are there data to include student reflection and self-assessment? All right, that's an interesting one, right? So is there data to include student reflection and self-assessment? That's a good thing to ask yourself, all right? And are there multiple measures being used? That is the biggest thing with data. You want to have, work samples and assessments, quizzes, and always as measured by report data collection. So as measured by report data collection, work samples, and classroom assessments. Those are the three great ones, all right? As measured by report data, write this down, report data collection, work samples, and classroom assessments, okay? So that's how you collect your data. So in IEP meetings, when you want something, okay, so let's just say that you want extra reading help, okay? You want a reading specialist to come on board, all right? And obviously your child has to have trouble in reading, right? So you want to make sure that you have data to support that. Do you think that you're going to be able to just say, hey, my child needs reading services, so could you please accommodate that for 1 hour a day? I'd really appreciate it. But they don't do that. So you have to be able to support what you're saying with data. So if you have work samples, if you have, even your child on recording from school, you can ask for recordings from the school. You can say, hey, can you send me a recording of my child reading a book? Or can you send me a recording of whatever, okay? So if your child works one-on-one with somebody, you can always ask for a recording. You have to sign a form, but you can ask for a recording, okay? So again, if you guys are hopping on, post a 1 below if you're new, 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. Make sure you click notifications and join the group if you want to. It's Autism Mama Rocks IEP group, and I hope to see you over there. How are you doing, Nicole? And Narwin, are you new? Tara, how's it going? All right. So the next thing, hi Dinah, how are you? All right, so the next thing I want you guys to look at is, this is kind of examples of data sources. This is kind of a sneak peek at my service accommodation and modification course. So achievement tests, you always want, there's two different types of achievement tests. There's norm or criterion referenced. All right, I have a preference. I'll let you guys pick your own preference, okay? Another thing is benchmark assessments. That's a big one, okay? You can actually collect data off benchmark assessments by knowing when they first took an assessment in the beginning, and then midstream, and then at the end. And you'll be able to assess and see those numbers and the graphs go up and down, okay? So typically on benchmarks, that can be measured in a graphical way. All right. Another thing is diagnostic reports. You can always, like if your child's taking, say they're on they're doing their reading with like DRA level. Okay, so if your child, their data is measured in reading by a DRA level, then typically that program that they're using, the school's using, hopefully it's scientifically based, research based, hopefully it's peer reviewed as well. Make sure that you can get that data. Go onto the website of the assessment that's given to your child. Okay, there's assessments called a STAR report. There's a reading program called Lexia. If you go onto these, there's a reading program that is really based off DRA, which is Fontes and Pinnell. You can go on each of these websites and you can look up how their data is collected. And I always advise you to do that because typically the school will not provide you what they're supposed to provide you. All right. Or their assessments, how it looks, their overviews, their individual assessment profiles are actually typically different than what the school's going to give you. So you want to make sure that that you know the difference of what it's supposed to look like. So I actually call them and you can do they can share their screen and go through how that program's run. So you can know the type of assessment that your child's taking. And this is just pertaining to reading, but you can do that with a math assessment, okay? Because schools, once you find out what the school's using, okay, so what program are they using for math? What program are they using for reading? Then you're able to look that up. You're able to find out. You're able to set up a one-on-one with somebody that works with that company, and they'll go over everything with you. And I always say, record your screen when they do that, because that is data in itself. And then you can know for sure that the school's providing you with the right data for your child in regards to whatever it is, whatever assessment that they're doing. Okay? I did not bring water today. Okay. So the next thing is you want to make sure that work samples vary. All right? Because how easy is it to say, oh yeah, we'll provide you data with work samples. That's easy. Okay, well, what's going to happen? What do you think is going to happen if it was just work samples, which is why you need to have a variety of data? All right. You don't want to just have work samples because they're going to give you the best work samples. You want to make sure that you get a variety of things. But one thing I would do with work samples is call them out on it. And then when you call them out on it, you have to be strategic on what you're really calling them out on. All right, so let me tell you what I mean. So you ask for work samples, or you get work samples when each week or whatever's in your IEP, every week, every month, at progress report time. You can even stipulate how much you want. You can say, I want 12 different types of course work samples a month. All right. Or you can say, I want 20 work samples attached to the progress report, all right, to support whatever the goal is. Well, the cool part about that is you get a variety of things. But the uncool part about that is you get a variety of things that could be the best part of everything, all right? So the problem with that is, how do you know that you got a variety versus just the best of the best that your child did within that semester? So I will call them out on sending me perfection, all right? Because nobody's perfect, and I don't expect my child to be perfect. I'm assuming you don't either. So when they send you all this perfect data, it creates a big question mark, right? So I'll call them out on it. I'll say, wow, my child's really doing good. She must have mastered these 3 goals, because, wow, I have not seen her do such a good job on writing like this. Her handwriting is fabulous. You see what I mean? So when you call them out like that, then watch this. They're going to all of a sudden send you not so great work. And has anybody else experienced this? I hear about it all the time. So then they send you not so great work. So then you're in the same situation as you were when they were sending you perfect work, because now you're just unsure. It creates that distrust because you called them out, but you called them out because you wanted to know what's what. Are they being honest? Are they not? You know? And so that creates a little bit of dishonesty and, trust issues and that sort of thing. So the best part of it would be is if they were being honest and your kid was doing great, but if they're not and you call them out and then all of a sudden you get not so great work, that's not cool, right? So I suggest that you always call them out, not in a rude way. Just say, wow, my child's doing really good. And, be honest about the fact that you didn't realize how great they were doing. And then all of a sudden you're going to get not so great work. All right. And then you can say, oh, wow, she's all of a sudden not doing well, keep being verbal and you'll see different things come in and you'll be able to get a better picture because you're calling them out on both. And so then the real is going to start coming in, the good and the bad, because that's how kids do, right? So just be verbal. Don't be afraid to be verbal, okay? And not all teachers are like this, specifically gen ed teachers. And, I'm a previous teacher. My daughter's a teacher. But the key thing is unfortunately, a lot of gen ed teachers don't have the time and capacity to be able to give your child a one-on-one, which is where a least restrictive environment and if a child needs a one-on-one and all those things come into play. But at the same time, they have very little time to do data, to take data, to adhere to your child's IEP as it is written, which is where a lot of mistakes happen. They don't do it intentionally, I don't think. I don't think gen ed teachers do it intentionally. Now, you have your good and bad teachers, you guys know that. But I don't per se think gen ed teachers purposely don't follow the IEP. I think it's just not in their realm of expertise, and they just teach. That's their job. And then you throw IEPs into the mix and they have to take data and all these other things, and they're not special education teachers. That's where mistakes happen. So even as an advocate, as gung-ho and crazy as I am, I do get how these mistakes happen. I understand how they happen. It's pretty easy how they happen. My issue, though, is as a parent, so I understand the teacher part. I was one. I was a teacher. But I also understand the parent part, which is more important. And I understand the fact that what they're dealing with and the stuff that's on their plate, all right, and the fact that gen ed teachers are just, they're teachers, their job is not special ed, but they have to have special education students in their room and creating that least restrictive environment. But again, a gen ed teacher does not have the same experience as a special ed teacher. So it's hard. It's a very difficult situation. And then you're asking them, hey, on top of that, you're going to take data and you're going to follow the IEP. And if this child has modifications and accommodations and everything else, and they have services too. So they have to be taken out of the room and this, that, and the other. So it's a lot for one to deal with. So mistakes are going to happen. All right. So like I was saying, as a mom, that's not my problem. Okay. So while I understand these problems happen, while I understand these are issues, while I understand it's a lot on one person, as a mom, that's not my problem, right? It's not your problem. So as a mom, I expect you to do your job. And if you have a child in your classroom and they have special needs, I don't care if you have 33 kids in your class, my child's IEP still has to be upheld, period. So how that works is if it's not being upheld, again, a teacher is only one person. That's where you can start arguing for a one-on-one. or even paras to be put into that room. So say your child doesn't really need a one-on-one, but they need something because the teacher has so much on her plate, then that's where paras can be put into the classroom to just help all so the teacher can do her job, which is to teach. Okay? So let's go back to data. One more thing I want to talk about is make sure that you understand that data also has to do with attendance and discipline. Okay? You have to take your kids to school. One of the top retaliation tactics that schools do is CPS and truancy. So make sure you take your kids to school. So let's move on to writing the present level of performance. This is difficult. All right, so we're going to talk about this for a second. So present levels of academic achievement and functional performance, that's PLAAF, P-L-A-A-F-P. And basically, well, let's go back for a second. It used to be called PLOP, okay, present levels of performance. So it kind of changed. They made it more difficult for us with more letters, okay? And it has to include data. It has to include evaluations. It has to include how they're doing in the classroom. It has to include any state assessments. It has to include your child's age and if they're in a transition stage, meaning from grade to one grade to another, meaning schools. It has to have observations. If your child's had an observation recently, it has to have what their skills and knowledge are at that moment. So what that means is the present levels, a lot of the time, is your child's baseline. So the present levels have to be so detailed that you know exactly where that child is right here, right now. And then you're able to take, okay, this IEP was created in August of 2020. In December 2020, this is where my child is. And hopefully, as we just talked about, you're collecting the right kind of data. Always have 2 to 3 different types of data collected in your goals. So as measured by report data collection and written assignments. As measured by report data collection, always report data collection, written assignments, and tests and quizzes, okay? And so that is a way to kind of get the whole picture of where your child is right now, because you want to use those present levels, okay, of where they are, where they're performing, so that you can then measure where they are right now as far as in December. So if their IEP was created in August of 2020 and you're then reviewing, I like to do quarterly IEPs. And so if you meet again in December, then you can look at the present levels of where they were when you started off your IEP. Then you're in December and you're able to see from that baseline, which is their present levels, okay, those present levels need to change every single year to where your child is right then, okay? Not 2 months before, not 4 months before, right then. All right. So if that can't be established, then what has to happen? An evaluation. Okay. Don't let them copy and paste from what was already there. Don't let them copy and paste goals that were on the IEP the year before. And if they do, ask why. Find out why the goals are being copied and pasted. I bet you, hi Alma, how are you? If you look at many of your goals, many of them are the same. That's not good, okay? And that means that somewhere along the line, data is not being collected. Somewhere along the line, something's not happening because the child's not mastering the goal. And that's one thing you have to establish as well, is have a discussion at your IEP meeting of what mastery means to you. Because mastery means one thing to you and one thing to me. And they may not look the same. So you have to make sure that what you believe is mastery and what I believe as mastery is the same. And that mastery description that you agree to needs to be put into the IEP. Okay? So it can go under notes section. I don't care where it goes. You don't want it to go under parent comments because it's not a comment. You want it to go into an area that means this is part of the IEP as far as how things go and flow, but it's not a parent concern. Okay? So you want it to say something along the lines of what you as a team agree to. So it could say my idea of mastery. Okay, I'll just give you mine. Mastery to me is if your child can read a 3rd grade book, say they're in 5th grade, okay? And so we have a 5th grader reading a 3rd grade book. So I want to see it on video. I have a lot of videos sent to me. And it's what they can send it to you legally through, as far as FERPA is concerned. And they can even put you have to have a password. So that makes it even more secure. So you can always ask for recordings. You have to sign a paper and then they can send it to you regular, which is fine with FERPA, or they can send it to you with a password. All right, like through Google Drive or something like that. And then you're able to see, and I say, can you record her 3 separate times? So I make sure it's 3 separate times because I want to see that she has different clothes on. And so I want to make sure that it's not in the same week. And I know what she wears, so it's not in the same week. I want it, various times so I can see that what she's doing is across the board. All right. So when I look at mastery, I look at, okay, can she show me on video when I'm not even there? Can she do it with anybody that gave her the book? So again, we got a 5th grader reading a 3rd grade book. The school's saying she can read a 3rd grade book. Okay, cool. They send me a video, 3 videos. Then I see Skylar reading with my mother and her sister and her brother and her dad. All right. So then what is Skylar doing? So she has mastered reading a 3rd grade book across all settings. All right. And that's another word, verbiage, school verbiage that you can use, that you want your child to master, whatever the goal is, across all settings as measured by. Okay. Always as measured by. All right. As measured by. So, it's always measured by something. All right. It's measured by report data collection, classwork, and class quizzes or tests. Okay. So always do that, because guess what? I love that, because then you can be provided the data. All right. I was in an IEP today, and it wasn't the parent that didn't have what she needed to have. It was the school. They had no data on what this child needed. Another hiccup that they did was they actually, in the state of California, they have paperwork that they are supposed to fill out, probably midstream. And they fill it out as a team, and the parents part of it, and it's for ESY. Because ESY is not supposed to be addressed at the end of the year. It's supposed to be addressed throughout the year, okay? And so they never filled this paper out with this parent, all right? But then at the meeting today, when I brought up ESY and how this child really needed ESY, and, with compensatory services that are more than likely going to be given to most children with special needs when they go back to school. He really needed this for math and reading, and that they needed to be a little bit more lenient in the fact that even though his grades were pretty good, he was still behind in those subjects. And the principal was like, nope, we don't do that. We're not doing that. We've said no all year. Well, I said, well, you can't say no all year. I'm sorry. But where you say no all year, you need to change that because you don't have a right to say no all year. And they can't prove that this child won't regress over the summer. Because the question you need to ask them is, okay, so you're saying that my child will not regress over the summer because you're going to refuse ESY. And so you're assuming that my child's not going to regress. Is that right? And then you're going to say, all right, well, how do you know that? How do you know my child's not going to regress over the summer? And then they're not going to be able to really answer you. They don't know. They're going to say, oh, well, data shows, or, oh, well, he hasn't presented where he needs ESY. Okay. So then you're going to say, okay, can I see that data? Where's that data at? Show me, please. I want to see the data that says that my child is not going to regress or doesn't need ESY because. What is it that you're going off of? Show it to me. You cannot just say, no, he doesn't qualify. Sorry, he doesn't qualify. Okay, cool. If he doesn't qualify, he doesn't qualify. Tell me why. Tell me why. I want to know why. You got to keep asking why over and over and over and over. And then when they say, well, he just doesn't qualify. Well, they don't qualify. He's not going to regress. He's doing fine in school. His grades are good. Okay, that's great. But how do you know he's not going to regress over the summer? Because of data. Oh, okay, show me the data. And it's this circle. Then you're going to say, okay, here we go. You don't have the data because I keep asking you for the data. You don't give it to me. Number two, you keep saying that my child's not going to regress over the summer. But how do you know? Have you given them a 3-month break over the school year to have that data that you know for sure that my child's not going to regress over the summer? Have you actually done that over the school year and not abided by the IEP because you wanted to test out if ESY over the summer is going to work or not? And of course, they're going to say no. Then you say you have no factual basis to base off your no at all. So we can either go to due process or you give my child ESY because you have no data, you have no reason, you just want to say no because you want to say no. You have no reasoning as to if my child will make progress or not make progress or regress. You're just going off of your no, he doesn't qualify. So you have to keep digging and not be afraid to do that. I see parents all the time kind of cower down in an IEP, and you can't. The times that you feel that you need to cower down is the times you need to go for it. I mean go for it. So you got to kind of change that feeling that you guys get of worry and stress and maybe intimidation and just fearful, because you can't do that in these meetings, especially when you're hitting a wall like that. You got to dig deeper. You got to question the hell out of them to the point where, bottom line, when you're questioning the hell out of them and you know in your gut that they're full of it, you're going to know that I guess what I'm saying is they're not going to be able to justify their no. They're just not. So if you keep digging, you're going to find that out. It's, it's like with, our kids, it's normal. They tell stories, whatever. But the more you ask questions, the more it kind of comes out. Same thing. So the more questions you ask, and here's the thing is when you ask those questions and you keep going for it instead of cowering back, guess what? They're not expecting that. Guess what? What comes out of their mouth is probably going to be a little different than what you would expect. Things start coming out. And then when they answer you, ask another question right away. Okay? So you got to be on your toes to really get those questions out there, because the more you go, it's almost like an attack, but it's not in a rude way. But you're asking those questions. You want answers. I'm telling you, stuff comes out that you would not believe. All right. Where, today it came out where they didn't have this data. This child had an IEE. They had no data to back it up. The therapist who was reading the IEE said, I think what this therapist meant in the IEE. And I heard it a couple times, and then finally I said, what do you mean you think? She was like, well, I'm just reading the assessment from the IEE. I was like, so you don't know what it means or what they meant? No, I mean, I'm just reading from what they wrote. Seriously? You're reading an assessment that someone else wrote and you have no idea for real what it means, because people write different ways. They mean different things. It's like texting. I'm so nasty when I text. Don't text me, guys, because I'm nasty. No, I just come out kind of abrasive because that's just my personality, but I mean nothing by it at all. But, emails come out like that too. Have you guys ever like done something and you're like, oh, that probably sounded pretty crappy, but I don't mean anything by it, because if you talk to me on the phone, you're like, oh, okay, two different people. Because I text quick and I don't think about it. I put no emotion into text and it's done. Where, it's kind of one of those things where you just have to be okay asking a ton of questions. You have to be okay with being a bit aggressive in getting your answers. Not aggressive as in attacking a person per se, but you want to be aggressive in attacking that person for the answers you want. Does that make sense? All right. Hi, Tammy. How are you? Hi, Alma. Hey, Grace. And thank you, Tara. Thank you. So if you guys are just hopping on, post a 1 below if you're new. That's first or third time. 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. Make sure you guys say hi. You guys know I want to get to know you. Post any questions below. Click notifications so you know I go live. And even if you don't catch me live, at least you know that I went live and you can catch it later. Also, you're more than welcome to share this if you feel that there's parents out there that would benefit. And you can also do a watch party. I know you asked, Tara, and you can do that in the group if you want to. And if you haven't joined the group, you're missing out, y'all. You really are. So join the group, Autism Mama Rocks IEP group. Just put it in the search section. All right. Okay, try to get ready for a meeting next week. Fun. All right, so I'm actually going to be sending probably an email out. I'm still doing IEP makeovers. I stopped taking people for a hot minute. I will start picking up and taking people probably the week after the 9th. So if you want to get on the calendar, you want to PM me now if you're wanting an IEP makeover. And basically that's going through your IEP page by page. I find all kinds of stuff and we go through each and every one of your goals. We get your stuff back on target or on target for the first time. And then you're able to really have that baseline and you're able to be in a good place for your child. So, I was explaining to people, a lot of times people will hire me to do an IEP makeover, represent them in that first IEP meeting. So then they see me do the IEP makeover and how I do it and how my brain works. And then they see me in an IEP meeting of how you present the information and changes and all that kind of fun stuff. And then they kind of are good to go, It's kind of like a watch and, oh, okay, got it, And then they go do it on their own. If you find a hiccup, then they call me back. But that's fine. That's how it goes because IEPs are not a one and done. So it's a good thing to do. Especially if you are in a place where I always want to say that all IEPs are important, but if you're going into kindergarten, that's where you got your eligibility meeting big time. Then you have 3rd grade's a big deal. 5th grade's a big deal. Middle school is a big deal. And then high school is a big, big deal. So, you just want to, the elementary is you want to make sure that your child's IEP is on target because you don't want to lose so much time that you're playing with fire, where your child's lost a year, maybe 2, goals have repeated themselves. The present levels are really copied and pasted just like the goals. You're just figuring this out. You're ready to scream because you didn't realize and know any better. And you're just in a bad place, which is a lot of people I've been working with lately. And by the time you're done, you're going to be in a good place. All right. Because that's the goal. That's my goal, at least. And because I've seen so many, like I said yesterday or the day before yesterday, I've seen so many horrendous IEPs that I'm on a freaking mission because it's horrible. And I get as a parent because, as you guys know, most of you, I went through 6.5 years of hell, and who suffered? My daughter. And I had to, really bust some butt to get her that time made up, which you can never make up time like that. And so it's important to not let that happen. All right. And, which is one of the reasons why she's in intensive reading therapy now. Yes, the school is paying $27,000 for her to go to Linda Mood Bell and, for a 12-week period because they screwed up. And, but that's a very hard thing to get. It wasn't, I went to an IEP meeting and bam, they said, yeah, we'll pay 27 grand for her to go to Linda Mood Bell. It was a fight, a long fight. And so, you don't want to get to a place where, oh yeah, I got this awesome reading program, but guess what? It took my daughter not making progress to get it. So you want to fix the problem before the problem actually happens. And doing that is getting your IEP right on target. And that means everything put in writing, everything. And I mean, with accommodations, guys, it needs to be down to the nitty gritty, not just, oh, your child, your child's blind and they can take a Braille test. No, it needs to be detailed of, every test that they take is this, or during every test that they have, they get 15 minutes extra time. And where's that 15 minutes extra time at? That 15 minutes extra time is done in the resource room. It needs to lead into the end. Okay, the child's taking the test. The test is going to be in Braille. They get 15 extra minutes. They get a separate room so that it's quiet, and that's in the resource room. You don't want to, if your child is able to be taken out of the class and given an assessment, a test, you want to know where that's going to be. You don't want it to just say is going to be taken out of the room or is going to be in a quiet place. You want to know where that is. You want it in the IEP. You want it written. All right. Now, one thing that you don't want in the IEP is one methodology, one way, unless, okay, it's proven. For example, you're going to hear me talk a lot about reading because I feel like I'm a freaking expert now, is, for example, dyslexia. All right, so say your child has dyslexia. Well, there really is one somewhat way of learning for children with dyslexia, which is the Orton-Gillingham way. And there's various methodologies within that, but is Fontes and Pinnell going to work for a child with dyslexia? Probably not. But is one method within the Orton-Gillingham methodology going to work? If done right, more than likely. So that's where you can have a one methodology versus don't put one methodology into your IEP. Because it's good to start with a variety, figure out what works, then you can kind of focus on one. But you don't want to limit your child on one thing if you really don't know what's going to work. Okay? So you do have to have that data. So if your gut is telling you, okay, my child is dyslexic, well, you need to get the test first. I honestly, so many parents want the school to do it. Just go get one. And, what is it? Medicaid and insurances pay for this stuff. If you have to pay a copay, in my mind, for dyslexia especially, go pay for it. If you don't have the money, sure, have the school do it, but that's one hell of a fight. They do not like to pay for testing and dyslexia. They just don't, all right? It's almost like they don't even want to consider it as a disability when it's a huge disability. But it's worth paying the copays and stuff, Now, there's certain reading... Good. Hey, Tina. There's certain, hey Tony, how are you? Um, Girl, let me do it right now. There's certain, what was I saying? Y'all got me all thrown off now. There's certain, there's certain, testing that your child has to have to, be diagnosed with dyslexia. And, please don't believe the myth. Is that the right word? The myth of your child is dyslexic because they see things backwards or write things backwards. If you look it up, that's not even a dyslexic thing. It's just a myth that people have been taught from a long, long time ago. Where dyslexia is more they could have trouble writing. All right, they have trouble reading, obviously. They have trouble decoding, comprehension. Writing and reading go hand in hand a lot of the times. And a lot of times math and reading go hand in hand. So it's not a, they write backwards. Okay, Tony, done. So that's important to know. Okay. My husband actually said that. He goes, oh yeah, he was talking about somebody and he was like, yeah, he was dyslexic, when we were growing up. And I said, oh, okay. And I said, how do you know he has dyslexia? And my husband said, oh, because he wrote words backwards. And I said, well, that's not really a reason why someone would have dyslexia. Like if you look it up, it doesn't say write words backwards. It's actually typically not even one of the things labeled. And he was like, yes, it is. And we made this bet because that's how my husband and I roll. And I won, of course, because dyslexia is not writing backwards. Okay. It's just a myth. Now, does that mean that they never write backwards? No. But if you Google it, that's typically not one of the things on the list. All right. So just say no. All right. So things to ask yourself in regards to the present levels, getting back to that. Okay. Because this is important. You need to identify the needs of your child and make sure that the annual goals are built off the present levels. So your annual goals, just like I was saying to you, your present levels should be your baseline because it should have your evaluations, your most recent evaluations. It should have where they are right now as far as academically. So any tests or quizzes or whatever, the percentages of their standard score, it's a SS score of their psychological, etc. exams go in there, their evaluations, and how they're performing in class, and then how that data was collected and how that is fact, okay? Because that is your baseline. And then all goals should be built off of your present levels, okay? So what grade level is your child at? So if we're talking about a 5th grade student, but they're on a 3rd grade level, that has to be presented in the right way. And say they're a 5th grade student and they are on a 3rd grade level in reading and then they're on a 4th grade level in math. Well, that has to be presented in the right way. And present levels should be separated, okay? They need to be separated, all right? So for example, there should be a summary, all right? And then the summary is backed up by math, reading, science, behavior, etc. Okay? So wherever the goals are, you can call them objectives in your IEP. They could be called whatever. I don't care. But you have your present levels and there's a summary. But then your present levels are then dissected. So that summary, which is how your present levels are, where your child is right now, what their baseline is. This is what they did on their last assessment. This is what their scores were. This is what classroom work they're doing now, et cetera, okay? The child's in speech and OT, et cetera, all right? And then you break all of that down that's in the summary. So you have an objective of speech. Okay, cool. What's the present levels? OT, we mentioned OT. OT, what's the present levels? So then you take that summary and dissect it. Math, okay, what's the present levels? Reading, okay, what's the present levels? All right, behavior is a goal and is something that you have to have a baseline of if that is affecting your child's and impacting your child's education. So behavior, okay, what's the present levels? Where are they? And how you measure behavior is typically a BCBA will measure it by the data they take on how many times an antecedent happens and what is done. So if the antecedent is the child hits themselves on the chest, all right, when they're frustrated or whatever. Well, BCBAs and BCABAs who deal with behavior, they measure that data by how many times did your child hit themselves on their chest in a matter of so many days or within a month or whatever. All right. So that's another thing you need to keep in mind. And I know this is getting long, but I want you guys to understand this because data is just so imperative to know. It's imperative to understand and it's imperative to have because it's what's going to get you what you need to get. All right. It's going to give you that objective way in thinking. It's going to give you that objective data in which nobody can argue. And then you have smart goals based off of your present levels and data that's in the present levels, and it's accurate. There's a lot of people that don't understand present levels the way they should, and that's normal because we're not taught. There's no class called Present Levels of Academic Achievement and Functional Performance. Anybody want to take it? So you kind of live and learn, right? Hi, Paula. How are you? You're welcome, Tony. And that's okay. Pat yourself on the back. Know that you are doing the best you can. And guess what? You didn't screw up as much as I did. I did it for 6.5 years. 6.5 years. I went through hell. And so you guys are doing so much better than me. So much better. So don't feel bad that you just didn't know. Because I didn't know for a long time. And it's important to know that, guess what? You're learning now, which is awesome. Okay? So that's what you got to look at. It drives me nuts where so many people live back there. You can't live back there because guess what? You can't change it. That's back there for a reason. So you're right here. Where's your present level? Where is your present level? It's right here. Back there, mistakes and all, they got to stay back there because we've all made mistakes. We've all done dumb stuff. We've all, wished we didn't do this or wished we didn't do that, right? It's back there. You got to let it go. Because to be happy, you can't live back there. So you got to look at your own present level. Where's your own present level? All right? And move forward. Because it's what you learn right now that's important, not what you didn't learn back then. Okay? So remember that. All right. So let's move on to, and if you're hopping on, again, post 1 below if you're new, post 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. Make sure to say hi, click notifications, share away, whatever you guys want to do. All right, another thing in present levels, parent concerns need to go in there. That's important, okay? Another thing that needs to go in there is what strategies, accommodations, modifications, interventions, services, blah, blah, blah. All of that. Basically, the throw up of everything your child has to go into the present levels. So some of these IEPs that I'm seeing, guys, where the present levels are like a paragraph or a page is ridiculous. Your present levels should be pretty big, depending on your child's age. But once they're at least upper grade, as far as, say, 4th grade, it should be like 2 pages. Okay? So kindergarten, of course, it's little, and then first grade it grows. Second grade, it should be at least a page, if not more. Third grade, a page and a half, and so forth. All right. So the only time it should be less than a page is kindergarten and first grade. If not, they're not being detailed enough. All right. So, another thing you need to think about is, what your child's preferences are. What are their interests? This is more important as they get older and they're transitioning. So it needs to be what transitions are going to be taking place or what's happening now, and the goals and preferences in relation to that. I asked for present levels recently and have IEP annual coming up. The special ed teacher responded and wrote one sentence, my daughter is in first grade. Well, your present levels should be in your IEP. As far as present level now, that is only measured by the baseline. So, Tina, you need to find out where your child's baseline is. So, you're saying first grade. So in kindergarten, was your child assessed? Was there an evaluation done? What did that evaluation say? What was the scoring? What did the scoring mean? Where did they fall? What was the standard deviation that said that they were low, high, average, below level, lower than below level, etc.? And then you can figure out where they kind of are. And then you find out where they are now, and you're able to see, okay, was there progress or was there not? All right. Information written educationally and in a babyfied manner, I guess would be the word. User-friendly. And I'm sure you've heard this before. You should be able to drop your IEP in the middle of the road, somebody pick it up that has no clue about special education, and they should understand in reading your present levels exactly where your child is and understand, oh, okay, that child is, singing her ABCs, but the child doesn't know her ABCs yet. The child's counting to 20. The child cannot count to 25. She really struggles. So if somebody picking up the IEP off the street, they would understand exactly what the present level of academic achievement and functional performance is, because it should be so babyfied written. Is that a word? So it should be written in an easy way to understand that someone said to me once that a third grader would be able to understand it. Okay, that's how basic your child's present levels should be. Not basic as in how in depth, basic as in how it's written. Okay, and then again, goals are based off that. So here's the deal. Here's the problem. This is what I'm finding is so many people's present levels are jacked the you-know-what up that I'm having to recreate goals. And then I'm presenting these goals to the team, and they're just like, you changed all the goals? Yeah, I changed all the goals because you guys jacked the hell up out of the present levels of functional performance. There's no way this child is here because the assessment says XYZ. You have this in the present levels. I have no data to show any type of change. And then you want to put this into the goals when you have no data to back up why you made this a goal. So this is what I'm doing in IEPs. And so that's why I'm like so crazy when I come on here, because I'm seeing it every day right now. And I don't want it to repeat itself continuously, but I'm seeing it across the board. And I think I've said to you guys, don't move to California. If you have a child with special needs, don't freaking move to California. Ever. Ever. Okay? Do you know in California, they are not, even though it's an idea, they're not required to transport your child unless your child qualifies because of budget. And that is a state law in Florida. In California. And California is one of the only states vet do that, but it's so stupid and ridiculous. I hate dealing with California. All right. So, summing this up, baseline data is included in relationship to expectations. All right. And in the general education setting, all right, your child's ability to achieve grade level proficiency is based off of the baseline. They have to have a baseline for you to know what their ability is in the gen ed setting to be able to see their grade level proficiency. Basically, that they are improving. Basically, that they are making progress. That there is something being done. That they are accomplishing something. Okay? There's no point in having goals to repeat themselves. So, another thing I've had to talk to parents about is being a devil's advocate. Is I'm not always going to agree with you. Things that parents tell me, I have to listen to it and make sense of it and make sure that it's something that can be argued because it makes sense. So, if I hear a parent just throwing up and telling me, that their child needs this and this and this and this, but there's nothing to really back up what they're saying, I have to really bring that parent back to earth and talk to them about what the real issue is, because typically it's more than what they're just throwing up on me. All right, so a lot of IEP stuff is emotional, and I got to get past the emotion to get to the concrete evidence to be able to help you in effectively transforming your IEP and your child's IEP career. Does that make sense? So, know your data. Know your functional levels. All right? So, the present and functional levels are so important. All right? And make sure that you collect data. All right? I highly advise, you can go on my website, you can get the daily communication sheet, but honestly, you need to put into your IEP that you want weekly coursework, especially if your child is working on things like writing, and they're not just how they write, but how much they write. That's a good way to be able to see what they're doing. So focus on the things that are important. You have time. It's summertime now, so you're able to really get your head on straight. And like I've said, you guys cannot take a summer break on IEPs this summer. And honestly, you shouldn't any summer. You need to make sure that you're staying on top of this, because the minute we kind of let things go lax is when things start spiraling. And with the IEP, you can't let it spiral. You've got to stay on top of it. And you have to hold the school system accountable. All right? So that your child gets everything that they need, everything that's appropriate for them, and you move forward. Okay? So if you guys have any more questions, let me know and I will be happy to answer them. And make sure that you go check out your present levels, see what it looks like, and then kind of figure out, what your next step's going to be so that you can make a change if it's not where it really needs to be. And then if you take where they are and then look at the goals and they don't even make sense, then you're going to know that something's up there as well. All right, guys. So I will talk to you soon, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Thursday. I'm ready to go to bed. And I hope you guys have a good Friday. Tomorrow's Picture Friday over on the group, so definitely come on over and you get to post your child's picture. And it's always a fun day because I get to see all these cute little kiddos doing fun stuff in pools and doing fun stuff with arts and crafts. And it's just cute to see because parents love posting pictures, and you get to see all these gorgeous little babies. So all right, so I will talk to you guys soon. I will see you. I'll probably go live probably sometime on Saturday, maybe Sunday. Not sure. I don't know. And then I will see you then. And make sure, go check your present levels. PM me. I'm curious. I am curious. I challenge you. Go grab your IEP. If it's on your computer, go to that. If it's on if you have it in paper, don't do that again. Go get it put on computer. Ask them to email it to you so you can create a folder and everything's in one place instead of having all this paper everywhere. And look at your present levels and PM me. All right. I'll message you guys back by tomorrow morning. I'm curious, or I'll message some of you back tonight, but I'm curious what they look like. Is that really your child's present levels? And does it really explain where they are if a third grader picked it up, knew nothing about your child? And are the assessments there? Are the scores there? One more thing to look at that's really important is there's a section in the beginning, usually on the first or second page on your IEP, that talks about what is the impact of disability of why your child qualifies for special education. So it'll say, that's usually where like the diagnosis will go. So it'll say something like Samuel's impact of disability, or it'll say something along those lines, is his ADHD and severe anxiety that impacts him in the educational and general curriculum by whatever it is, okay? Being distracted, getting up and down in class, whatever, okay? But that statement, it's usually like maybe 2 to 5 sentences, is everything on that IEP. All right, because you can always go back to it. This is what my child's deficit is. This is the impact of disability. And everything within the IEP is based off what? The impact of disability. So check out that section too. All right, guys, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.